Hi everybody, I am Carrie Baughcum. I am a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade special education teacher in the northwest suburbs of Illinois, and this is episode 4, Imagine That. Today I am talking about everything icons, and I am ridiculously excited to finally get to this episode. This is the third in a series of sketchnoting like how-to tutorials, but I like to think of them as less than how-tos, but more about inspirational and ideas for how you can use the elements of sketchnoting in your classroom to enhance learning. So let's get started. Icons. In sketchnoting, when we're sketchnoting, icons are the images that we draw on our sketch notes. You might also hear people call them your doodles or your drawings, but they're the pictures that we draw on our sketch notes. In episode 2, we talked about listening skills, how our brain takes in information and it summarizes it, and when we've become a really good information synthesizer, we learn how to micro summarize our information and really make it into small chunks. And as we grow as sketchnoters, and when we start to add these skills and we start to bring in icons, this is the next step. This is where icons come in. In our brain, when we hear information, we start to play a movie in our head. That's what I'll often ask my students, what movie's playing in your head? Or we start to imagine a picture in our head about what we've seen. So what picture is in your imagination? And that's how icons get started. With these prompts from us as educators, what movie is playing in your head? What picture do you think of when I say these words? And really forcing our students to synthesize the information and formulate a picture in their head and visualize their learning. All right, so you guys get it, right? We take information in, we process it around, we formulate a picture in our head, and we visualize what we're learning. So now we need to talk about what happens next, what's going to happen in your classroom, and what needs to happen for your students, and what needs to happen for you to start adding icons to your sketch note. When starting to add icons to your sketch notes, the first thing you need to do is remember that you know how to draw. Whether you think you can't, or you know you can't, or you tell yourself you can't, I'm sorry to break it to you guys, but in that brain of yours, there is a mind that remembers how to draw. All right, so now I could take you into a couple of slides that show you how all images are made of 6 to 8 common elements like triangles and squares and squiggly lines and dashes and dots. And if you visualize these different shapes, when you're connecting them to images, they will show you that you can draw. It's wonderful. You can go search it. There's several of the basic sketchnoting elements that you can go look up. But here's the deal, you guys. We adults are the ones that need that. Our students don't. Once we tap into their imaginations and remind them that it's there and remind them that they know how to draw, they're more fearless than you think they are. Their drawing abilities are much more developed and much more awake than we adults. And so when it comes to drawing, it's just a matter of reminding them and reminding yourself that we can do it. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You just need to put the pencil to the paper and start drawing. The next thing that we need to do is we need to practice. See, our mind with icons is like a library. And depending on when you stopped loving to draw, that's when your icon library closed. That's when your brain stopped learning and stopped filling up your library with new icons that your hand knew how to draw when you thought of them. So what we need to do is we need to practice. We need to go on Google and look up images and then practice drawing them on paper. We need to experience sketch notes and be okay with imperfection and draw and draw and draw. It takes, like anything new, like any skill, like running a marathon or learning how to play the guitar, sketchnoting is a skill, and our brain, depending on how often we've been drawing, how long we've been drawing, only has a certain number of icons depending on how often we draw. So what we need to do is we need to build that icon library. And the way that we do that is by practicing. Another important part of icons is the process and reminding ourselves and reminding our students of the process. That we take information in, we visualize it in our head. What movie's playing in your head? What picture do you see? And then taking that picture and doodling it. Remember, at first, if you don't know how to doodle something right away, either shift it to another image that you know how to draw, or don't be afraid to pop open that phone or that computer and look at a picture of something and then draw it. Our doodles should take us between 30 seconds to a minute to draw. They should be quick and they should be simple representations of the information that we're thinking of. But process is king, and when we're working on this with our students, them hearing you say this over and over and over again, what image do you see in your head? What are you visualizing? Taking them through that mental process is going to be so important to them when it comes to developing the skill of visualizing and using icons. All right, you guys, so the last thing for icons, and I know you can read this. So the last thing about teaching icons is that you are going to have to do it too. You're going to have to pick up that pencil, pick up that pen, pick up that dry erase marker, and you are going to have to draw too. So I said it, didn't I? You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to pick up the pen and draw with your students. I feel like the whole thing of sketchnoting, but icons in particular, the one most impactful element when it comes to teaching sketchnotes is you. You showing them the process, verbalizing out loud what's happening in your head, and then showing them when you're drawing. Being okay with your imperfection of your art, of your drawings, of your doodles, and verbalize that. Like when I'm drawing in my classroom, I'm like, oh my gosh, this head is warped. But by sharing my own thoughts about my drawing and making fun of them, they see that it doesn't have to be perfect. And all of a sudden, all these guards that we have put in place in front of us around doodling and this idea that all our drawings have to be art suddenly go away. So pick up the pencil, pick up the pen, get on the floor with the kiddos, get a big piece of butcher paper, doodle with them when it comes to sketchnoting, and that will be a huge game changer for you. So we know that icons are the images that we see in our head put on paper in doodles. We know that it takes practice to build this icon library in our brain, the library that our hand knows how to draw. And we know it's a process that we need to practice over and over and over again. So at this point, if you're like, yeah, Carrie, I get it. It's time, you guys. It's time that we don't overthink this and we just dive in. Icons are full of potential in your classroom, from just reading a text and putting a simple icon next to a paragraph, to creating a sketch note and organizing information and asking students to add 2 or 3 icons to that sketch note, or maybe even printing out notes that you traditionally take, or even using the notes that you already use in your classroom and asking students to go home or taking the last 5 minutes of class to pick 5 facts and visualize them in their head and draw a doodle or an icon next to it. Just those simple tasks, this one single element can have a powerful impact on enhancing students' learning, and the ability to connect ideas and information with icons and then draw them on paper enhances so many parts of the learning in our classroom. So just remember, you guys, the elements have power. Icons take information and connect them with images in our head, and then we draw them on paper. And just that simple act has a tremendous power. So think about ways you can twist and hack and apply that to what you're already doing in your classroom. And just that this simple element will have a great impact in your classroom. So if you guys have liked what you've seen here, and I've actually been quite overwhelmed by all of the support and comments and interactions that I've had with other teachers, that they're finding such value in my ideas and the videos. It's been wonderful. I love it, and I can't even tell you how incredible it feels to be able to connect with so many wonderful educators who are doing ridiculous things in their classroom with students and sketchnoting. If you could go ahead and outline that subscribe button, you'll get notifications every time I post a video. And if you want to go ahead and color in that thumbs up, that'll let me know that you came by and liked the video. So you guys, until next time, remember when you're sketchnoting, there are no rules.